All right, so for this video, you are going to need your book and a scratch piece of paper. I'm going to do this first problem with you in your book, and then I'm going to do a couple of example problems that are not in your book that I want you to write out with me, though, on a scratch piece of paper. So first of all, in your book on page 477, we're looking at that first story problem. So it says Mark has 2 summer jobs. He babysits and helps with gardening. He works at each job 3 days a week and earns a total of $240. The table shows his earnings each day. How much does he earn each day babysitting? So looking at this table, he earns X amount for babysitting, and for gardening, he earns $30. So what do we know? We know that he earns X amount for babysitting, he earns $30 for gardening. He works each job 3 days a week, and he earns a total of $240 for the week. What we don't know is how much he earns babysitting each day. So you could fill that in those 2 lines. Then down there on hands-on activity 1, we're going to use a bar diagram to solve. Okay, so our total diagram represents the total amount he earns each week. And we know that amount, it's $240. Then we know that he's going to work for 3 days a week. So we split that into 3 sections to represent each day that he works. Each day, he also babysits and gardens. So since he earns X amount for babysitting plus the $30 for gardening, each one of those sections represents the amount he earns each day. So you can see inside our bar diagram, we have 1, 2, 3 groups of X plus 30, because they're the same on each side, and that equals a total of 240. So that is how we get our equation. So from the diagram, you can see that 1/3 of Mark's total earnings is equal to X plus 30. So where they're getting that is if I split the total earnings into the 3 days, or in other words, I took 240, the total earnings, divided by the 3 days he works, I would get $80 per day. So he is earning $80 per day, both babysitting and gardening. But I don't want to know what he earns each day for both. I want to know what he earns for just babysitting. So if I take that $80 that he earns for both and subtract the amount that he earns for gardening, I should get the amount for babysitting, which would be $50. So in other words, he earns $50 each day for babysitting. Now I have the ability to pause and get set up and then record. I went ahead and set up what your scratch paper needs to look like for the next 3 examples. So you need 2 boxes, and then you need an equal sign in between. We are going to draw these problems out using our algebra tiles. So our first problem is going to be 2 parentheses, X plus 6 equals 16. All right, so on one side of the equation, I have 2 groups of X plus 6. So remember our X plus 6, and then I have 2 groups of that. Is equal to 16. All right, so I need to make 0 pairs, and I always work on the side that has the variable, so I'm working on this right-hand side. Since I have an actual total of 6 plus 6, so 12 positives, I need to add 12 negatives. What you do to one side, you always have to do the other. And now I'm going to go ahead and get rid of my 0 pairs. So those make 0 pairs, those make 0 pairs, And then these actually make 0 pairs. So now I'm left with 2x equals 4 positives. So since I have 2 x's, I'm going to split them into 2 groups. And what you do one side, you have to do the other. So I'm going to split these into 2 equal groups. Therefore, 1x equals 2 positives, or x equals 2. All right. Next problem, you're going to have the same setup. So next problem, we have 4 parentheses x plus 2 equals -4. So I have 4 groups of x plus 2. So there's one group, and I need 4 of those. And then is equal to -4. So I have 4 negatives over here. I always work on the side that has the variable. So if you can see the side that has the variable, I have 2, 4, 6, 8 positives. So to get rid of those 8 positives, I'm going to add 8 negatives. What you do to one side, you have to do to the other. So I'm going to add 8 negatives over here. I get rid of my 0 pairs. And I don't have any 0 pairs on my right-hand side because all I have is negative, so I'm going to leave that. So now I have 4x is equal to 12 negatives. So since I have 4 x's, I'm going to split them into 4 groups. And then I'm going to split this side into 4 equal groups, because what you do to one side, you have to do to the other. So 1x equals one group of -3. In other words, x equals -3. And your last example problem is going to be 3 parentheses x minus 5 equals -9. So I have 3 groups of x minus 5 on this side. And then on the other side, I have 9 negatives. I always work on the side that has my variable, so I'm looking at that left-hand side. So since I actually have 5, 10, 15 negatives on that side, I'm going to add 15 positives. What you do to one side, you do to the other, so I'm going to add 15 positives. I got to get rid of my 0 pairs. So now I'm left with 3x is equal to 2, 4, 6 positives. So since I have 3 x's, I'm going to split them into 3 equal groups. And therefore 1x is equal to positive 2. Or x equals 2. All right, your assignment now is to do numbers 1 through 6 on page 479.